My father took me fishing in 1935. We went down below Rock on Spring Creek. I had a Kingfisher bamboo rod. I made a cast. Now this is before daylight. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, and I felt something on the other end. I threw the fish up over my head. It came off the hook. It was wiggling in the grass, and I finally found it, and it was an 8-incher, and it was the greatest prize that one could have ever had. So that started my fishing career. I was trying out for the junior high basketball team. I was in 7th grade. I'm sitting on the bench. I'm not playing. The kid next to me said, "What are you sitting here for? They're having wrestling tryouts for junior high down in the locker room. And Dave Lockhart's in your weight class, and you can pin him." So I got up, went down in the locker room, and pinned Dave Lockhart, and that was my start of my wrestling career. I feel that my kids that wrestled for me and the kids and the people that I've been associated with have been so successful and through life, and that's my reward, knowing how successful they have been, and what a God-given pleasure to know that they all succeeded in life. And in fly fishing in the world, and I've met so many people that have given me so much, like George Harvey, my mentor, and they go on and on, that gave me the start in my career. But I was so fortunate to have the streams here that were fishable, God-given, wonderful waters to fish, and those streams were my classroom. And today I've enjoyed a lot of success and a lot of pleasures. I would like to thank Lloyd Rhodes. I would like to thank John Wetzler. I would like to thank Ron Piper and all of those that put this together. And I appreciate being thought of and honored in this way, and it's greatly appreciated. Thank you. It is such an honor to be in the inaugural class, and I so appreciate people thinking that well of me, and I thank the good Lord for being elected. Thank you.
Joe is a nationally known fly fisherman, conservationist, author, and educator. He has been an instructor for over 45 years. Joe has traveled the world representing the U.S. in fly fishing competitions, has guided presidents and celebrities. He's held the Pennsylvania state record trout, hosted the first national fly fishing show on ESPN, and was inducted into the Fly Fishing Hall of Fame. Joe is a published author of numerous books and articles on the sport of fly fishing, including Trout Tactics and On the Trout Stream. He's a regular contributor to regional and national journals and periodicals. Joe has produced and starred in 5 instructional fly fishing videos, including the Telly Award winner for Best Video, The Night Game. And a new documentary film, Live the Stream, is currently under production about Joe, his lifelong love for fly fishing, and our great local waters. Joe serves as a coach for the USA Youth Fly Fishing Team and works closely with Project Healing Waters for our veterans. Joe directed the renowned angling program at Penn State University for 19 years, providing introductions and foundations to young and old for a lifelong enjoyment of the sport. He has lectured throughout the U.S., enhancing the reputation of Pennsylvania fishing, and is known for his work to save Spring Creek and Thompson Run from pollution. After a successful wrestling and boxing career in the U.S. Navy, Joe became one of only 2 varsity athletes in Penn State's history to letter in 2 sports in the same season, once again in boxing and wrestling. As a head wrestling coach, Joe led Penns Valley High School to its first winning season. coached Katanning High School to its first undefeated season, and was the District 6 Coach of the Year while at Bald Eagle Area High School, where he coached BEA's first state champion and ignited the spark to start BEA on the path to wrestling greatness. Joe concluded his wrestling coaching career as an assistant under Bill Cole for Penn State. In 2012, Joe was inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame as the Outstanding American from Pennsylvania. Joe still lives along Spring Creek in his home near Boalsburg, where he spent most of his adult life. He still loves fishing, talking fishing, and teaching fishing. Welcome to the Center County Sports Hall of Fame, Joe Humphreys, and congratulations for being in the inaugural class.
My father was the son of some immigrants from Switzerland who settled in the New York metropolitan area. And one of the national sports of some of the Germanic countries was gymnastics. So he learned the sport of gymnastics at the Swiss Turnverein in the little community there in the New York metropolitan area, actually Jersey City, New Jersey. And then he went on to the University of Iowa. Fortunately, they had a men's gymnastics program there at the University of Iowa. And he got a scholarship and attended the University of Iowa, where he majored in physical education and was a Big Ten champion there for the University of Iowa. Well, his first job out of college was at Penn State University. He was the gymnastics coach, started there in 1939. And he was most proud about the fact that he took what was a circus at Penn State before he arrived and molded it into a major sport, which still holds the attendance record at Rec Hall for a number of people to attend a athletic event there at Rec Hall. So he was very proud with the way he developed the sport. Penn State became known as the school for men's gymnastics in the United States, and he would be proud of that. And of course, developed about 13 different gymnasts who made Olympic teams for Penn State. Well, that's a tough question. I'm not sure exactly what he would say to that question, but he was very thankful for Penn State for giving him the chance to be the coach there, and he loved State College area. Grew up here, so to speak, just out of college, and raised a family here. I'm one of four, the oldest of four children, and he would be very thankful, I guess, for Penn State University for giving him the chance to be a coach here, and I think he paid them back with some, major accomplishments on behalf of the university that went international. Well, it's certainly a source of pride for myself and the brothers and sisters that he's been recognized with this honor. He, toward the end of his life, he, of course, lived to 100 years old, and he'd been retired for longer than he had coached, even though he coached for 36 years. So one of the things that kind of gnawed at him a little bit was that a lot of people didn't even know who he was because they hadn't even been born when he was coaching. So the fact that he's been recognized in this way and his name has been brought forward again for recognition will be a source of great pride for him. About being in the Center County Sports Hall of Fame. I think he would be very proud of the fact that he's among great company, including Joe Humphreys, who was a mentor of a lot of trout fishermen, and Dad tried his hand at that before he got into the sport very far, including fishing with George Harvey. So he would be very honored to be part of that great band of sportsmen.
Gene Whetstone had a profound effect on the sport of gymnastics, nationally and internationally. When his teams competed at home, the gym was nearly always full. At a home meet against Southern Connecticut State University, attendance was estimated to be approximately 8,000 people. The success of today's USA gymnastic teams and individuals is in great part attributed to the foresight and guidance of Coach Gene Whetstone. As an athlete, Whetstone competed for the University of Iowa, where he captured Big Ten gold medals in the all-around, pommel horse, and high bar in 1937. He was hired the very next year at Penn State and never left. Gene coached at Penn State for 38 years, 1939 through 1976. He strongly supported the effort for an independent gymnastics federation. He was head coach of the U.S. national team from 1970 through 1976. Gene coached numerous gymnasts who became head coaches. And in the 1966 NCAA championships, his protégés, Bill Meade, led the Southern Illinois team to Team Gold, and Hal Free's U.S. Berkeley squad took Team Silver. Coach Whetstone's teams won 9 NCAA Division I championships. 37 of his gymnasts won NCAA individual gold medals. In addition, 3 Nittany Lions, Steve Cohen, 1967, Bob Emery, 1969, and Gene Whalen, 1976, won the Nissen Emery Award as the nation's top gymnast. His teams were national AAU champions 4 times. Coach Whetstone was a frequent participant at the Olympics, serving as head coach in 1948 and 1956. He was team manager for the 1976 team and an Olympic Games judge in the 1952 and 1968 Games. Gene dedicated his life to the service and recognition of the sport of gymnastics. He was a past president of the National Association of Collegiate Gymnastics Coaches. He was voted NCAA Coach of the Year and is an honored member of the Helms Hall of Fame. He served on the United States Olympic Committee for 20 years and on the NCAA Gymnastics Committee for 18 years. Gene also served as National AAU Vice Chairperson for 8 years. Gene passed away on July 30th, 2013 at the age of 100. He is represented here today by his son, Jerry. Please join us in congratulating Jerry on Gene Whetstone's induction and taking his rightful place in the Center County Sports Hall of Fame in the inaugural class.
My dad grew up in the little town of Osceola Mills, PA, where he was a standout baseball and football player. From then he went to Penn State, lettered 3 years, was drafted by the Baltimore Colts. A trade kind of ended that for him. He started his coaching career in Western PA and then moved to Bellefonte in 1952, where he coached for 21 seasons, ending in the 72 season. My dad probably was most proud of the success of players after they got out of school, high school or college. Number one, he wanted to prepare them for later in life. Football was just a brief moment in your life. It was more important to be a good person, a good citizen, and that was, I think, what he was most proud of. Seeing players later on in life and sharing their success stories. Certainly, everyone involved in this process, he would take the time to thank personally. Starting with John Wetzler, who approached me, and we started the application process. Bud O'Brien, of course, you, Ron Pfeiffer, Dick Rhodes. I don't think he would single out one person, but as a group, he would be very thankful for that. Well, we take great pride in this. It's something that, as a family, we see this as a tremendous honor, and unfortunately, Dad isn't here to share it with us. Mom, been having some hard times here lately, and she probably hard for her to grasp this as well. So it's a bittersweet. Oh, he would have probably, knowing him, approached it very humbly and said it was others that deserve it more than he. But he's created some great bonds throughout the years that I'm fortunate I'm still approached as your coach's kid. So he would be very proud. He would be. It's truly an honor for all of us, and we appreciate everything you guys have done.
Bill Luther was a legendary football coach at Bellefonte Area High School from 1952 to 1972. He holds the all-time record for football wins at Bellefonte with 107. He was a 3-year letter winner at Osceola Mills High School, graduating in 1945. Bill was selected for the Pennsylvania All-State team in both his junior and senior years. He was named the outstanding player in Central Pennsylvania in 1944. Bill legally left high school, which you could do in those days, on March 1st, 1945, and played baseball for Penn State. He finished the year 3-0 on a 10-game schedule and was their number one pitcher. Bill was offered a scholarship to Penn State by football coach Bob Higgins. But Bill joined the Army Air Corps and served 2 years first. After military service, Bill returned to Penn State, where he lettered for 3 years and was a starting running back for the Nittany Lions on the undefeated Cotton Bowl team of 1947, the acclaimed We Are team. He graduated in 1950. Bill then played 8 games with the Baltimore Colts before leaving professional football and becoming a coach. As Bellefonte head coach, he produced several All-State players and 2 All-American players, Jerry Shivery and Sam Nastasi. He coached many college players and won many awards. He was named Coach of the Year in 1954 as the Raiders rolled to a 9-1 season. His 1966 squad missed a perfect season by 1 point, a 1918 loss to Lewistown. The 1967 team had a 13-game win streak snapped by BEA 7-0. The 1968 team had a perfect season, winning the championship of the Central Counties and Western Conference. Sons of Bill and Bob Luther starred on the teams in the late 60s and early 70s. Today, the Phillipsburg, Osceola, and Bellefonte teams play for possession of the Luther Trophy. Bill was elected into the Clearfield County Hall of Fame in 1988, followed by being inducted into the Pennsylvania Big 33 Hall of Fame in 1991. Bill and his wife, Patricia, came to Bellefonte in the summer of 1952 when he was hired as the football coach. They raised 3 children. Bill passed away August 17, 1995, at the age of 68. Patricia still resides in Bellefonte. Bill and Patricia's children are here today representing their father. Bill Luther Jr. will accept the plaque on behalf of his father. Please join us in congratulating the Luther family on Bill Luther's induction and taking his rightful place in the Center County Sports Hall of Fame in the inaugural class.
Well, quite honestly, my mother and my dad were the one that started me in this sport, in baseball. I guess I started in Little League. I got to play 2 games before they found out I was too old. And I got kicked out into the Junior League. Well, I think one of them was becoming an all-state football player my senior year. I remember my junior year, I didn't get to go out until school started, and of course the coach sent me to the JVs. I started college and I ran out of money, so then I went to tech school. And I think Flanagan was the school teacher at Bellefonte High School, and he says, "What's happening?" I said, "Well, I'm going to have to drop out of school because I run out of money." He said, "You ever think of going to Stevens Trade?" And they said, "Well, we'll accept you after that." And then I got to wrestle with Coach Mowry as my coach at Stevens. And then that year, I ended up winning the National Prep School Wrestling Championship at 167 pounds. And then I played football, and I even went out for track. I was just a novice at that sport, but Coach wanted me to come out and try out for track. I said, I don't want to do any running. I've done all the running I want to do. Well, Coach Mowry would be one of them. My dad, of course. Coach Luther, he was a football coach. Jim Harsani, he was a line coach. My dad coached me up until we won the championship in Pleasant Gap. We won the Tri-Valley Center County Championship. He was my coach most of the time. There was some McMullins that coached me in Legion ball. My mother started me at playing ball, really. She's the one who spent time with me in the backyard when I was throwing it up against the house.
You didn't hit any windows or anything?
Oh yeah. I took a couple of windows out. I hit a few ball players too. Probably that booklet's out. I think I hit about 90 some. Only one intentionally. Well, I'm quite amazed at it, being selected. I loved all the sports I played, and I'm just glad that I was able to do something that somebody was appreciative of, besides me. Well, I had a great time. I'd like to do it all over, but I'm not able. But I have worked with some young kids that have gotten to play. Coach Leathers there, he allowed me to work with Eric Milton. I worked with another young kid at Lock Haven University who came back after playing minor league ball. He came to the school one day and I said, well, did we teach you the things you need to know? Yeah, he said, but there's a lot of things you didn't teach us. And I said, what's that? He said, to throw strikes.
Ward Whitehill was a multi-talented athlete in several sports, but it was in baseball that he found a truly lifelong association, playing and excelling well into his 50s. In fact, he was referred to as the Ageless Wonder. Ward started playing baseball in Little League until it was discovered he was one day over the age limit. He then moved to the Junior League, playing for his father, Harold Lefty Whitehill, who himself played in the minor leagues. Ward played 4 years for the Bellefonte Red Raiders baseball team. He graduated from Bellefonte in 1953 after earning 3 letters in baseball. He played first base and pitched 1 game in his senior year. He starred as a tackle on the football team, earning 2 letters and co-captaining the team. In his senior year, he was recognized as All-Susquehanna League and All-State Third Team. Ward also wrestled during his senior year, earning 1 letter and placing 3rd in the District 6 tournament at 154 pounds. Ward was invited to attend rookie ball camp in 1953 for the St. Louis Browns and the Phillies, and also for the Pirates in 1956. But the pay was not enough to live on, so he did not try out. At Stevens Trade School, he participated in football and in wrestling, where he was National Preparatory School Wrestling Champion at 167 pounds with a 3-year career record of 19-6. He also participated in track and field. He was president of the newly formed Varsity Club. Ward graduated in 1956 from Stevens in Industrial Electronics. In the Center County Baseball League, Ward played from 1947 through 1990. He pitched, played first base, and later coached. Ward holds many Center County League records, including most career strikeouts, 2,726. Most career wins, 174, and career losses, 104. He played on the Clarence Mounties team, who won the Mid-Atlantic State Amateur Tournament and was named to the All-State team. He played on many local squads, including a traveling team that played at Cooperstown and in Canada. He served 2 terms as president of the Pleasant Gap Rotary Club and still lives in Pleasant Gap, where he and his wife Rose, who was his high school sweetheart, raised 4 children. Welcome to the Centre County Sports Hall of Fame, Warren Whitehill, and congratulations for being included in the inaugural class.
Actually, I had 2 passions when I was little, and one of those passions was to be the fastest draw in all Bellefonte. I had my 6 shooters, and every year at Christmas time I would ask for a gun and holster set from Sears and Roebuck or whoever, and I wanted to be the fastest draw. I practiced it constantly. My brother weaned me from that and wanted me, of course, to play ball, which I did as well. And throwing balls up against the brick walls and concrete bricks. I remember one time breaking the block in our garage, and my dad came out and scolded me. Little did he know, it was probably the happiest moment of my life to be able to break that concrete block. But my brother really got me started in the game, and I'm not going to say he pushed me, but he loved the game so much, and he passed that on to me. And anytime I wanted to have a catch or we wanted to go hit, he would have me out there hitting, and he was, he would throw as long as I would hit, and so he basically got me started in the game. When it came time to sign up for Little League, my mother, who was a very protective mother, would not sign that document, and my brother did what he could to make sure, that I got to play Little League. I've had a lot of great things happen to me, both in baseball and fast pitch softball and coaching, and I look back at that. I think the thing that gives me the most satisfaction is our Little League team. We won a state championship in 1958, and then 3 years later we won a Babe Ruth League state championship, and I still have great ties with those guys that played on that particular team. We talk about it. It's 60 years afterwards, but it was certainly memorable to me. And that association has just always been a great one. As far as coaching goes, my greatest satisfaction is the fact that to see those young people who were young people when I had them grow up, mature, have families, be responsible citizens, and just doing a lot of things in the right way. I don't think there's any greater compliment to us that have coached, and there are some here, than to be called coach by a former player. You're walking down the street and minding your own business, and someone says, "Hey, coach," that it just gives you a heartwarming feeling, and I never get tired of it. Obviously, going back, I thank my brother, Richard, older brother of about 5 years, for getting me started in this. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for him. I'd like to thank all my teammates. I'd like to thank our opponents that we had over the years, the parents of the players that I've coached, and so forth. There's just, nothing like coaching. I would like to thank previous coaches that I had. I remember in Little League, Pickle Rossman, outstanding coach. I learned a lot from him. And that's the thing about coaching. You're a player yourself, and you learn and pick up things from every coach that you ever had, both good and bad. Well, Pickle Rossman was a good one. My own brother, who coached me, Don Robinson, who basically was my mentor. He was the guy who was the coach of of Bellefonte before I took over. And he doesn't really realize how much he meant to me as far as me developing into the coach that I was, and always appreciative of it. Over the years, my name would never have been in the paper, I guess, if it weren't for the media and what they've done for our high school team and for me personally. And you know, I know some of my friends sometimes say, "Oh, your name's in the paper again," and I go, "Oh, what could I say? I'm sorry," you know. But the media, I mean, this is just such a good county for athletics, period. I think we're going to see that over the years in this organization. I am both honored, humbled to know that the very first class, and I'm in there. There will be so many more to come this year and in the years, you know, in the future. It's just such a great feeling to be in that group. As I look at the names of those people that are here today, you know, I think that they're all just outstanding men, and not just as coaches, not just as athletes. They're outstanding as far as being human beings and people, and I feel just great that I'm among those people.
Bellefonte native Denny Leather's baseball career spans more than 50 years, beginning with a state Little League champion in 1958. In high school, he won 3 letters in baseball and 2 in basketball. He hit .500 as a junior on the Red Raider baseball team, second highest in the Mountain League. As a senior basketball player, he was the 6th leading scorer in the Mountain League. In the summer of '63, right after he graduated, Denny was invited to play at the prestigious American Legion East-West All-Star Game. That summer, he was signed by the Philadelphia Phillies, and between 1964 and 1968, played 4 complete years of Class A and Class AA baseball before knee problems ended his professional career. He went on to play many years in the Center County Baseball League, where he still owns the career records for the most home runs and the most RBIs. Denny graduated from Lock Haven University in 1970 in secondary education. But because he was a professional athlete, he was not eligible to compete in college athletics. He then attained a master's degree at Penn State in 1977, followed by his principal certification in 1984. During Denny's 30-year high school coaching career, the Red Raiders amassed 396 wins, including 7 Central Penn League titles, 3 District 6 AAA crowns, and 3 deep postseason runs. He is believed to have the most overall head coaching victories in Bellefonte athletic history. After high school, many of Denny's players played college baseball, several at the Division I level. Standouts included 11-year major leaguer Eric Milton and All-American Nate Stone. Denny was named 1976 Class A Fast Pitch Softball MVP, as well as the Tournament All-American, after his Millersville, Pennsylvania team won the 57-team tournament in Ohio. At the ages of 51, 52, and 53, Denny played in the Roy Hobbs World Series in Florida, 48 and over teams. During those 3 years, his Florida Masters team won 3 straight titles, going 8-0 each time against competition from all over the country. Denny hit .448, .517, and .483 in successive years, amassing a slugging percentage of .850. Many teams' rosters included ex-major leaguers. Denny and his wife Bonnie still live in Bellefonte, where except for baseball, he spent his life. Welcome to the Center County Sports Hall of Fame, Denny Leathers, and congratulations for being a part of the inaugural class.
The way I got started was I had a brother who wrestled. We at Hollidaysburg, that's where I'm from, and he's the one that really got me started, because we used to wrestle around at home, and even though he was much bigger at the time, because I was only a 7th or 8th grader and he was up in the high school, And we spent some time rolling around at the house and that kind of thing. And so that's really how I got started. And then I just, in ninth grade, I went out because we didn't have junior high programs at that time. And then went out for wrestling and wrestled from then on. One of the things that really gave me a lot of satisfaction is the success I've had. And I had success because I had good kids that were very outstanding. They were willing to be hard workers and good listeners, good learners. And I had some really good assistants. And I had a lot of parental support and family support, which really made a lot of difference and really made it easy to be successful. I'll put it that way. Because without all those things, you can't have much success. Well, I would really like to thank Keith Beerley. Keith is the one who first contacted me about it, wanted to know if I was interested in really doing in the paperwork and applying and see if I would do it, if I would follow through. And I said, sure, I would give it a shot. And then he continually gave me information. And then, of course, you gave me a lot of information. And I would like to thank the group, the committee, for choosing me. I'm very honored by that, and I'm very humbled by it. And I really greatly appreciate it. Well, that's especially honorable because I know from what I talked to Keith that there were a lot of very outstanding individuals involved. And he said the number you started with was pretty high and worked your way down. And some of the names that he mentioned to me, I understand that I am especially honored to be here, knowing who some of those people were and who some of these people are that you are interviewing today. And I really appreciate that.
Joe Hamaker is a legend in Pennsylvania wrestling circles. Already a member of the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame in 2006 and the Lock Haven University Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2008, Joe had a great career as a competitor and a coach. Joe did his high school wrestling at Hollidaysburg High School, graduating in 1953. He was a District 6 medalist his senior year, then matriculated to Lock Haven State Teachers College, known as Lock Haven University today. He was a starter and steady performer for LHSC and won the very tough Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference Championship in 1956 and 1957. He placed fourth in the NCAA tournament his senior year in Laramie, Wyoming. And while wrestling for the Bellefonte YMCA, he was a two-time champion in the state YMCA tournament and was named Outstanding Wrestler each year. Joe began his coaching career with a 2-year stint as an assistant coach at Lock Haven High School. But then he was hired as the head coach at Penns Valley, and he never looked back. He turned Penns Valley into a wrestling powerhouse during his 14-year head coaching career. He had 2 undefeated seasons, 1962-63 and 1965-66. Joe was named twice as the District 6 Coach of the Year, and his Rams were 3-time winners of the tough Bald Eagle Nittany Christmas Tournament. His teams in the 1960s were dominant, and a huge victory in the 62-63 season, breaking State College's 64-meet win streak, exemplified that dominance. Penns Valley won 29-18. Joe is a member of the Penns Valley Hall of Fame. He and his wife Vicki live in Center Hall, and he remains active in his community and in his church. There was never a better role model for young athletes than Joe Hamaker, and that still is the case today. Welcome to the Center County Sports Hall of Fame, Joe Hamaker, and congratulations for being in the inaugural class.
Well, first, my parents were very understanding of sports and what it takes. My dad had participated in sports in high school, and they took me to a lot of athletic events when I was a young kid. And then in the third grade, we had a teacher, Mrs. Thorpe, whose husband was a head of the grounds crew at Penn State Athletic Department. And she used to take me up there every once in a while to run around the track and just jump and do things. I think she thought I was a little overactive at school, so she tried to get rid of some of my energy by taking me up to Penn State to run around. And then I guess probably the one individual that had the biggest influence in my desire to get involved in sports and really be something was a guy by the name of Glenn Smith. In 1946, he started the wrestling program at Bellefonte. And he came around to all the outlying schools that fed to Bellefonte and talked to everyone saying about this new sport they started, wrestling. If you're interested, he'd encourage you to come to the wrestling matches. And at the end of the regular year, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, he held a special practice session, invited anybody who wanted to learn wrestling to come in and get involved. So I would hitchhike from Pleasant Gap to Bellefonte and 2 nights a week and get involved in wrestling. And ironically, the first wrestling match I ever saw was Bellefonte against State College High School in the 46-47 season. And one of my idols was a guy by the name of Joe Humphreys, wrestled in that match. Later became a teammate and a very good friend. All the coaches, I guess, that I've had were at least a great number, as Ward mentioned, Jim Arsani, Fred Bell, Bill Luther. They were all very influential and had a lot in my really wanting to get involved in sports as much as I could. And I wanted to emulate Glenn Smith, be like he was, be a gym teacher, be a coach, and live that type of life. I think probably the associations that I created through being involved in sports, in all sports, friendships, and that was really very important. Then, as Denny said about the kids that went out and you saw them become successful and hope that maybe you had just a little tiny bit of something to do in their development, and seeing them grow up and have them come back and visit you, talk to you, it's pretty special. There was something special I think happened at every place I stopped along the way. The Naval Academy was very special, and then I had a grandson who just graduated 2 years ago from the Naval Academy. That was a special event. And yeah, the affiliations, I mean, I got to meet so many people that were really just outstanding individuals. Well, again, I guess I have to go with my mother and dad. They put up with a lot with me, late meals, being here, being there, going places, hauling to go to different events. And of course, I'd say all the coaches, especially Glenn Smith, but all the coaches that put up with me, all the athletes that put up with me as their coach, and all the coaches that put up with me as their athletic director. And I guess so, first and foremost is my wife and family. They had a lot of sacrifices they made just for me to be able to do the things that I've been able to do. Very appreciative of that. To know as many people that I know that are deserving of this, much more than I am, and to be included in that first group, it just blows my mind. I'm very honored, very humbled, and very thankful to everybody that was involved in voting, especially to Dick Rhodes, who nominated me.
Dave Adams has been actively involved in athletics for 2/3 of his life, carving out a prestigious career in the world of scholastic and collegiate wrestling. At Bellefonte High School, Dave began wrestling in 1947 as a 7th grader. He participated on the varsity team for 4 years. His achievements include 2 state titles, along with 3 regional and 4 district championships. His career record was 67-4 with 35 falls. Dave was the first wrestler in Bellefonte in District 6 history to win 2 PIAA titles. His success at Bellefonte Area High School prepared him for further acclaim at Penn State, where he was an NCAA runner-up and an EIWA champion for the Lions. In 1957, he was the team captain, and his photo graced the cover of the NCAA Wrestling Rules Book. His overall record was 32-10-3 at Penn State. Dave coached a year at Penn State after graduating before landing a teaching and coaching job at Boiling Springs. He then returned as an assistant to Penn State, staying 5 years until accepting a position at the U.S. Naval Academy. He stayed at Annapolis for 3 years. Dave was then hired to lead the University of Pittsburgh's wrestling program in 1967. That year, Amateur Wrestling News named him Rookie Coach of the Year. Dave led the Panthers for 12 years and 98 victories, 3rd most in Pitt history. His last 5 years, he was an assistant athletic director, in addition to coaching wrestling. After his career at Pitt, he went on to be the athletic director at San Jose State and Akron over the next 10 years. Overall, Dave has been involved with the sport of wrestling for over 65 years and is already a member of 5 other Halls of Fame. He helped to develop the Eastern Wrestling League in the 1970s, and he served nearly 20 years on the NCAA Rules Committee as secretary-editor. Dave and his wife Barbara currently live in Goshen, Indiana. Welcome, Dave Adams, to the Center County Sports Hall of Fame, and congratulations for being in the inaugural class.
My father was a great influence with my brother and I. You know, he taught us how to throw a baseball, throw a football, shoot basketball, and you know, when I was growing up, the first organized sport I participated in was Little League Baseball, and I was a scrub right fielder with a uniform that was about 3 sizes too big. And then the next year got a little bit better, and then it was junior high, 7th grade, played football, played basketball, played baseball in the summertime. And it went on from there until the high school started soccer, and then it was soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, track and field in the spring, and Center County League in the summer, and then that continued through college. But my pop was a huge influence. My brother and I had numerous, very spirited sessions out in the street, in the backyard. 9 out of 10 times they ended up in fights. Yeah, when we would go out to play catch, we ended up throwing the ball at each other instead of to each other. But that was a great influence too, because we really became competitive, and it helped both of us a lot. I think another factor was growing up here with Penn State and being able to watch Penn State sports, being able to go up on campus at the time and watch a wrestling match or a baseball practice, or all those sports, I thought was a tremendous influence for us. There are 2 things that I look back on that really were satisfying to me. One of them is the opportunity as a coach to have some influence on young guys and try to prepare them for the real world. And when you hear back from them and they realize there was a method to the madness, and that they appreciated their experience and really value their experience, that's worth its weight in gold. And the other thing is the friendships. I look back on, you know, when you compete against, like in high school, competing against the local teams, then you see the guys in the summertime, and you have that bond that from competition, and the friendships that still lasted today, both from college competition and high school competition, is tremendous. In my view, I'm representing everybody that supported me through the years, from my family to my high school teammates and coaches, my college teammates and coaches, when I was coaching, my assistant coaches, my players, trainers, secretaries, administrators, all those folks who, basketball club people here at William & Mary, all the people that helped me, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for them. And so I feel like I'm representing them here today, and I'm honored to do so. I also really appreciate Drew Frank nominating me. But so I'm more representing people, I feel like, than actually being honored myself. I'm really humbled and honored to be here. The fact isn't lost on me that there are other people who are as qualified and could easily be here. I'm sure will be here in the future, and for me to be here today is a tremendous honor, and it means an awful lot to me, having been from here, and this is my hometown. It's really kind of hard for me to put into words. I also feel that the committee deserves a lot of credit. This has to have been a daunting task to start this from scratch, given the fact that most communities that have a Hall of Fame have been doing it for decades and decades. And to start this project had to be a really difficult thing, and I think the committee is doing a great job.
Bruce attended State College High School, graduating in 1967. A superb multi-sport athlete, he was all-conference and won the Bill Jeffrey Award in soccer. He was all-conference in basketball, earning honorable mention on the state basketball team. He also qualified for the state track and field championships. The same was true when he attended Lock Haven University. In soccer, Bruce was three-time Division I All-East First Team, two-time Division I All-American. He was named top collegiate goalie in the United States in 1969. In basketball, he was all-conference for 3 years. In track and field, Bruce was the conference and district champion in javelin. Bruce graduated in 1971. Bruce achieved even higher accolades as a coach. He was a graduate assistant coach in basketball and soccer at the University of Virginia in 1972, before moving to the College of William & Mary. He served as an assistant basketball coach there for 5 years, until 1977, when he became the youngest head coach in Division I basketball. His 1983 team was undefeated in conference play and secured the first postseason bid in school history. He was named ECAC Coach of the Year and NABC South Coach of the Year. In 1983, he moved home and became the head basketball coach at Penn State, coaching in the same gym where he played pickup games in the summers and weekends when he attended State High. He led the Nittany Lions for the next 12 years until 1995. His teams earned 5 postseason bids, the most in program history, the first conference championship in program history, and the first NCAA bid in 26 years. His teams achieved the NIT Final Four twice, and he coached 5 20-plus win seasons, also most in program history. He was Atlantic 10 Coach of the Year in 1990. After coaching the Nittany Lions, Bruce was the associate head coach at Ohio State for 2 seasons, and was a volunteer basketball coach back at State High for a season, and 3 years in Florida. Bruce has been inducted into the William & Mary Hall of Fame, a charter inductee in the Lock Haven University Hall of Fame, and the West Branch Valley Hall of Fame. Bruce still lives in State College with his wife, Arlene. Welcome to the Center County Sports Hall of Fame, Bruce Parkhill, and congratulations for being in the inaugural class.
I had 2 older brothers that wrestled at Phillipsburg, my brother Peck and my brother Dick. and I actually had a younger brother that wrestled at Phillipsburg too. Through them, just watching them wrestle sort of got me interested in wrestling, and through them I met Coach Red Campbell. And he had a great impact on me. And not only in wrestling, he was the assistant baseball coach. And after baseball practice would be over, he hit me ground ball after ground ball. And I'm not sure I can tell you exactly the impact he had on me because it's so big and it's tough to get down to narrow little points. But he had a great impact on my value, on my principles, and also my coaching career, because a lot of things that Red did, I did. I think probably the greatest satisfaction, two really. The ideal that I've dealt with young people. I've coached on a junior high level, a high school level, a college level, and I think dealing with young people make you feel young, even though you're not. We're no longer young. And probably the second thing is the association that you've had with those young people. But those associations, that's what it's all about. I'm not sure I'd have been happy doing anything else. And I never went to work, whether it was teaching and coaching at Phillipsburg or coaching at Lehigh, that I ever felt, holy Jones, I got to go to work today. I enjoyed it. It was fun. And I'm not sure how many people can say that their life's employment has been fun, and I can. Well, I've already mentioned Red, but I'd like to backtrack. I come from a big family, 11 children, and so needless, my mom and dad did a good job somewhere along the way. As I said, I had brothers that wrestled. I don't think I ever wrestled a wrestling match, whether it was in high school, college, on the East Coast, West Coast, that somebody in my family wasn't there. So they played a big part in my life. I hope there's somebody out there that I've had associations with that feel that strongly about myself. I think being inducted into any Hall of Fame is unbelievable. It's gratifying. Being inducted into the inaugural one is, I guess that even makes it a little more special. But maybe more important, it pays tribute to those young people, those young wrestlers that wrestled for me. Pays tribute to Red Campbell, Coach Lehman, my college coach. And that's maybe more important than anything else, the tribute it pays to those folks. I'm here today because of those great people.
Thad graduated from Phillipsburg Osceola High School in 1957. He had a career record of 31-3 and was runner-up in the regional wrestling finals to the eventual state champions. Thad lost only one dual meet in high school. Thad attended Lehigh University from 1957 through 1961. He had 31 career wins in dual meets, lost only one match, and had 2 ties. He was the team captain for the Engineers in both his junior and senior seasons, and he showed the way by winning EIWA titles in 1960 and 1961. He was named the most outstanding wrestler in the 1961 EIWA tournament. That also was an NCAA runner-up that same year. Immediately after graduating from Lehigh, he was immediately hired as the head wrestling coach at Phillipsburg High School in New Jersey. Thad led the Stateliners wrestling squad for 9 years, compiling a 98-14-4 record and producing 8 state champions. In 1971, Thad was then tapped to replace legendary coach Jerry Lehman at Lehigh University. In 1971, Thad was then tapped to replace legendary coach Gary Lehman at Lehigh University. Thad held the reins as the head coach for 18 seasons till he stepped down in 1988. His teams were 171, 104, and 5, including 8 EIWA team championships, 62 individual EIWA champs, including 7 in 1975 alone. He was the EIWA Coach of the Year in 1975 and 1988. In the NCAA tournament, Thad had 14 top 10 finishes, including third place in 1979, when he was named NCAA Coach of the Year. Over Thad's career, Lehigh had 43 All-Americans. 6 of his wrestlers won a total of 9 NCAA championships. He also produced 1 Olympic gold medalist, Bobby Weaver, at the 1984 Games.
Bobby Weaver scoots around behind, gets another takedown.
Thad was inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame in 1989 via the Pennsylvania chapter for lifetime service to wrestling. Thad was inducted into the Pennsylvania Wrestling Coaches Hall of Fame in 1989 and was inducted into the Lehigh University Athletics Hall of Fame in 1996. Thad lives near Bath, Pennsylvania, near Nazareth, with his wife Janet, spending a lot of time on the golf course. Welcome to the Center County Sports Hall of Fame, Thad Turner, and congratulations for being in the inaugural class.
Yeah, that was Mr. Jerry Weinstein. He was the editor, not the sports editor. He was the editor of the paper. He said, "Doug, you can have the job but you have to stay 2 years." I stayed 37, so I fulfilled my obligation. I kind of remember my first assignment at the newspaper. I mean, I was a rookie, that was for sure. I came back to the office after the event, and I started to write the story in freehand with a pencil. You start with a typewriter. Way back then was a typewriter. But, and boy, things caught on after that. I forget how many bowl games. I think I covered 8 Penn State bowl games. Fell in love with wrestling, having never saw wrestling until I came to Penn State. I was kind of active in attending events up here, and I kind of fell in love with wrestling. I covered 3 College World Series when Penn State competed. High school track and field, that was one of my favorites. Basketball games. I remember when they used to pack Rec Hall and West Virginia and Pitt and good teams like that. They'd ring the track. Just the amount of, I sure covered about everything and that you could possibly cover. When you work with people like Homer Barr and Dave Adams and people like that, later on Johnny Johnson, people like that. After that, I did a lot of stories, program stories for the NCAA. Even after I retired, I did a couple. I can remember, I'm pretty sure it was 99. I had been finished school by then, but I wrote that was the year Cale
won his first of 4 titles at Penn State. Yeah, that would maybe start with my wife Jane. She, in the beginning, covering high school football on a Friday night, depending where I had to travel to, places like Du Bois or Lock Haven, or first we were eating our evening meal about 4:30 in the afternoon. She was really helpful there. Great support from her. I really have to thank too Ron Bracken. When he came aboard, I hired him. He came aboard full time in 1967. At that time, I was kind of covering a lot of the high school region, districts, regions, state tournaments at Rec Hall. Then he came aboard in '67. Then Ron kind of stepped in, and I think his first PIA tournament was, that might have been at Harrisburg. Yeah, it's funny how that turned out. As a result of all the awards and being inducted, this all goes back to when I first started, the fact that I kind of did this all in reverse. Without, of course, there was no Center County Hall of Fame. I grew up in the Reading area. I never saw wrestling until I came to Penn State. But just the people that you're going into being inducted with, like Dave Adams, he was a big help to me. Thad Turner covered many of his Lehigh wrestling matches.
Doug McDonald is elected for his contributions as a great sports journalist. He was born in Edinburgh, Scotland in 1933. His parents immigrated to America and settled in Pennsylvania. He graduated from West Reading High in 1951 and matriculated at Penn State, where he had planned to be a CPA. He took time off from college and spent 2 years in the Army. After returning to Penn State, he switched courses and graduated with a BA in journalism. He was hired by the Center Daily Times in February of 1958, where he worked in advertising. When an opening in the sports department occurred, Doug asked the editor if he could have the job, and he replied, "Yes, if you stay 2 years." Well, Doug stayed 37 years, and the rest is history. He covered practically everything at the high school and collegiate levels, plus Little League playoffs, area golf, Center County League baseball, fast-pitch softball, and anything else in sports. Among his many beats was schoolboy wrestling, and with that was born a weekly post-season chart, which was a half-page matrix. Starting with the District 6 tournament, it featured the names of each wrestler in each weight class, his year in school, sectional record, holiday tourney record, dual meet record, overall season record, and total pins. The same procedure followed for the Central Northwest Regional Tournament and the PIAA Finals. Back then, the state tournament was on one day and attracted 4 wrestlers in each of the 12 weight classes. Ed Carlin, former Syracuse wrestling coach, mentioned to Doug at a Syracuse-Penn State meet many years ago, "You sure make my recruiting job easier when I see those charts." Doug covered 31 NCAA tournaments and various conference championships, EIWA, EWL, and Big Ten. He has written features for American Wrestling News, Win Magazine, and NCAA tournament programs. He has won the prestigious Bob Dillinger National Sports Writer of the Year award twice. Oddly, McDonald, who retired in 1995, never saw wrestling until he enrolled at Penn State. But he said covering a sport when you're dealing with coaches and wrestlers like Charlie Spidell, Homer Barr, Dave Adams, Rich Lorenzo, Ron Pfeiffer, Bill Cole, or Johnny Johnson, a newcomer to the sport couldn't help but enjoy wrestling. Doug and his wife Jane still live in State College, and he still scours the CDT every day. Welcome to the Center County Sports Hall of Fame, Doug McDonald, and congratulations for being a part of the inaugural class.
Well, I believe I got my start because I was born in a community that was ideal for wrestling. Newton, New Jersey, we had more cows than we did people in the county in the 1950s all the way through the 50s. So I had an uncle that wrestled at Penn State and in the States in New Jersey, and raised on a farm, and the kind of hard work he did, the two went together. And so it was, and my brother and sister were older, and they sort of beat the hell out of me anyway. So I learned to defend myself, and wrestling was the sport for me. Well, I got and get the most satisfaction from dealing with people, dealing with families, dealing with wrestlers, dealing with support fans, media. I just like people. I love wrestling. So if you want to talk wrestling, I'm available. And I just feel that when you can help somebody, even if it's just put a smile on their face for a day, you've accomplished something in life. And I don't go to church a lot, but I really believe in God, and I believe a little bit of us all have a part of God in us, and we want to be good to our friends and our fellow people. Well, if I begin to thank everyone that's worked and pushed hard for this, I'd probably leave some people out. But personally, I have worked pretty close with Ron Pfeiffer, Don Burrows, Dick Rhodes, and I think the head chief, Lloyd Rhodes. Those guys have been very assertive, very honest, very excited, and it just made it neat to be part of it, to be included in a group of people as nice and as accomplished as they are inducting. So it was a great honor for me, and I think those gentlemen, along with a lot of other people, helped make that possible. Wow, that's a great honor. I don't know if I'm that deserving of it, but that is a great honor to be in the first class of, and to see the people start on trying to get this organized, and all the work they did and all the work they're doing. And just saying thanks to a lot of people that have put a lot of their life into working with young people and the sport of wrestling itself. So what an honor, and I'm very thankful for it.
Rich Lorenzo and wrestling are inseparable. Wrestling has defined his life. He was a 3-year starter at Newton High School in New Jersey. His senior year of 1964, he was a New Jersey State runner-up at 141 pounds. And a non-wrestling accomplishment that certainly prepared him for later years in the sport, he was a 4-time state public speaking champion in the FFA. At Penn State, he was a 3-year starter, undefeated in dual meets his last 2 years. He was the EIWA champion, outstanding wrestler, and the most falls winner his senior year. He also was an NCAA All-American that year, finishing 4th at 191 pounds. But it was in coaching, however, that Rich had the most success. He began as an assistant coach at Penn State under Bill Cole for 6 years. Then in 1978 became the head coach. Rich led the Lions for 13 years, 1978 through 1992, with a career record of 188, 64, and 9. His teams finished 6 times as a top 5 team in the nation. The Nittany Lions won 11 EWL championships and 2 national dual meet championships. Rich coached 53 All-Americans and 5 national champions. He was a 2-time National Coach of the Year and 6-time EWL Coach of the Year. After retiring from active coaching, he was the co-executive director of the National Wrestling Coaches Association from 1993 through 1995 and remained active in that organization for many years afterwards. Rich was instrumental in forming the Penn State Wrestling Club, which now has the largest membership in the United States. With his guidance and fundraising efforts, he helped create an endowed fund for the wrestling team. He was also instrumental in fundraising activities for the practice facilities for Penn State University, having been completely revamped, and now honors him by its name, the Rich Lorenzo Wrestling Complex. Rich was inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame via the Pennsylvania chapter for lifetime service to wrestling, the EWL Hall of Fame, and the Pennsylvania Wrestling Coaches Hall of Fame. Rich still lives close to Spring Creek in his home near Bellefonte with his wife Cindy. Still a great leader and as humble a man as you would ever meet. Welcome to the Center County Sports Hall of Fame, Rich Lorenzo, and congratulations for being in the inaugural class.